Hello, and welcome to another episode of Awaken and Ascend. Today, we are talking about money manifestation mastery with the Wealth Accelerator, Lara Waldman. Thank you all who are joining into Awaken and Ascend today. My name is Jennifer Regular, and Lara is actually a fellow author in The Ultimate Guide to Leaving a Legacy, which was launched just a couple of months ago. Super excited to have you here, Lara, and talking about accelerating our wealth, obviously, but also about integrative wealth and what spirituality has to do with it all. So, welcome to the show.
So wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm curious about what inspired you along your path. What lit you on the route to wealth acceleration?
Well, it's been quite a journey, may I just say. But this long story short, is I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, and grew up around wealth, around money. I didn't realize that that was a wealthy life. That was just my normal. I had a spiritual awakening when I was 18, after a lot of trauma, and I started really waking up this sort of spiritual wisdom inside of me. And then saw a vision for my future, what I'm living now, but I didn't know that what I do now existed. So my brain was like, oh, you're going to be an actress. But basically brought myself over to London, long story short, had another kind of my next level spiritual awakening when I started meditating. Got my next vision, which is that I was a healer, and I didn't know what that was. And then I spent, all my 20s developing my skills as a healer, channel, spiritual coach, and I was just wanting to help everyone with everything and save the world and heal the planet and all of that. But it wasn't until I was 32 years old that I had, at that point, two little girls. I was still very connected to my vision, but at that point, my husband's income wasn't even covering our basic bills. And we were broke. And I just remember collapsing on my sofa after hanging endless little socks up, and feeling very, very defeated. It's like, I've got this big purpose and I have no money. And what the hell is going on? So I just collapsed on the sofa and said to my inner guidance, what is going on with money and this planet? And then this beautiful being appeared in front of me, and with all this gold and wealth and in their arms, and said, this is for you, Lara. I was like, what is this?
Wow.
What does that mean? And they said, it's here, it's for you to receive. And I said, well, if it's here for me, why isn't it in my reality? And then this guide showed me all these walls around me. And he said, well, these walls are stopping you from receiving. And I was like, well, why are they there? Why don't we just take them down? He's like, oh, well, those walls you've built to protect yourself. And from that moment on, I went on a really deep, about a 2-year inner journey around my relationship with money and wealth. And what I hadn't realized is I had unconsciously rejected money and rejected wealth, and really rejected the physical world. I'd gone from wealth that was really disconnected from heart and soul, and then I pendulum swung into heart, soul, purpose. I'm like, this is what it's all about. This is it.
Mhm.
It turns out we also need money on this planet as well. And I then was shown that I had so many unconscious beliefs, patterns, and programs that were keeping me in separation from money. And honestly, it was very stressful for my brain. It was very confusing that I had all of these beliefs and a relationship with money that I didn't even know I was having. And so then, slowly but surely, I was then given my next big mission, which was then I was guided that it was part of my next level purpose to help welcome more money into the bodies and the businesses and the bank accounts of big-hearted leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs. And I was really overwhelmed by that vision when I got it, but then followed my guidance one step at a time. And now, I am, I run 2 programs, I've written my book, I've got my podcast, and it's all about conscious wealth creation. But how do we be great custodians of wealth and money? And it's really about creating a heart, body, soul line relationship with money and power and leadership. And essentially, how do we be better humans on this planet? How do we use money and wealth for all life to thrive, and really rewriting and healing the old financial systems? So the mission of my work is transforming the financial system, one body, business, bank account at a time. And so that's what got me into wealth. It took me a while, sort of kicking and screaming, and a lot of resistance, and then finally realized it was a beautiful thing. It was not, there's nothing to fight and resist.
Yeah, and how you brought it in and was able to integrate all of that, right? For a more fulfilling, expanded life. And that accelerated process, like people have been talking lately about accelerated ascension too, right? Leveling up our life and the way that we're living, our ultimate being. And I loved also earlier when you spoke about how the visions came to you, because so many people struggle with trying to figure out what their purpose is, what their passion is, what they're supposed to be doing here, trying to remember why they came here to this planet in the first place. And you mentioned how it came to you, right? How we draw that in. And there's an opening, a spaciousness that needs to be there in order for it to enter. And I love that you spoke about yourself as a gatekeeper too, right? Opening the way, opening the doors to wealth, right? Because we have people here that are conscious leaders that are allowing people to be seen in the way that they're meant to be seen here on earth. And we need money to do and have that kind of impact that we want to make, to really make that difference as well. And
Yeah.
so I get the manifestation piece that you had in there as well, how you brought in those vision, how you brought in the wealth and fulfillment, and how you brought in the way that you're meant to deliver this service to others. And so I'm curious how that has transformed your life and your work and the people that you serve.
Oh my gosh. In really profound and significant and kind of embodied ways,
Yeah.
but in really unexpected ways, because I think sometimes when we're in lack, when we're in scarcity, when we're not enough, the people sometimes come to me because they're having problems in their finances or problems in their business. And that survival brain and that lack and scarcity will have us like in a particular story, a particular lived experience that can be creating a lot of unconscious stress. And so when my clients go through this wealth work, I like to call it, their whole relationship with money changes, their business changes, but fundamentally themselves changes.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel more relaxed, they feel more safe, more secure, more integrated, more authentic, more embodying who they are, more free, more liberated. Um, and yeah, just a bit more settled somehow. Like it's a bit more, I call it secure wealth, where you feel really secure and settled in the
Oh,
wealth that you have and create. Because it's really about bringing it through the body and being the integration is about your being wealth. You're not just having it from outside of you.
I love that you talk about the being. Yeah. And not just filling the void, the security, right? Secure wealth. That's what really caught me too, because people crave security and safety
Yeah.
and feel like if they have enough money, then they'll have that safety and security, right? And so there's this feeling of the void rather than just allowing and discovering fulfillment and being motivated by that. So not so much of lack and trying to fill that void, but actually embracing and tuning into wealth and abundance, right? And
Yeah.
all that's provided and being resourceful from the inside out as well in that state of being.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is I've coached so many people at all different levels of wealth, and feeling safe and secure with money isn't always about how much money you have, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
have all the money in the world and still have very high anxiety, still have fear of losing it, still feel like it's
Exactly.
not enough. And
Yeah.
so what I started to realize was it wasn't just so much how much money you have in your bank account, it's more about how you're being, the deeper level of safety and security. And money's part of that. But what I like to do is be like, money isn't the source. You are the
Mm.
source. Money is the symptom.
Yes.
So it's really easy to say that, but when you're in lack and scarcity and survival, it feels like, yeah, okay, whatever. But actually, there's a whole powerful practice to embody that security and safety before you have the external thing. That's part of the manifestation is you be it now, and then you draw it in and towards you. So it's a really, it's has a really significant change in people's lives. But it's a practice, it's a discipline. It's like I say, it's like going to the money gym. This isn't like
Mm.
fluffy, manifestation. This is like really, it's like we're building it through our physical reality. So it's grounded.
Mm-hmm. 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 Recognizing that it's the being that prompts the doing, that gives you the having.
Yes.
Right. Is it something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's well
And
said.
it's
Yeah.
not just lack of money too, right? When we talk about lack or limitation, lack of time, lack of
Yeah.
energy, right? Lack of love in our relationships and with life and in ourselves. And all of that relates, right? So how do we protect our greatest assets? How do we protect our time, energy, and money? How do we integrate all of those things and not compartmentalize it?
It's really, really great question. I mean, for me, the way that I navigate all of that is I talk to the consciousness of my soul and my heart, my body to help me figure out what's in alignment,
Yeah.
because there's sometimes we give our time and energy and our money to that's actually not in alignment with where we're going. So it becomes a leak. But if we're channeling our time and energy and money into things that are in alignment, then it's going to be a fuel. And sometimes our brain, like for me, my brain will sometimes tell me like the opposite is true, what I'm being guided to do versus what I think I should be doing. So for me, I navigate all that by really tuning in and listening to my inner wealthy wisdom. And then I'm making sure that my time, my energy, my money, all of it is funneling into something that's going to create what I truly desire, rather than leaking my energy into things that are just going to uphold patterns of the past and keep me in separation. But it's our poor brain gets quite confused. I call that rewire to receive. We have to feel our way through, because this is going to be telling us a very different story.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you're crazy.
This isn't the way I was brought up.
Yeah. And it's quite
Yeah.
countercultural sometimes, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, my guidance has been very confronting. It's like doing things differently to my family or my friends, and triggered a lot of fear of judgment and rejection and misunderstanding and persecution and stuff. I've had to
Yeah.
work through a lot to trust it, to tap it, to keep moving forward. But I've realized it's all worth it, because what our brain doesn't know is on the other side is something so much deeper and richer and more beautiful than we can imagine, because it's something you haven't experienced. Like I didn't know that there was this existed, this reality I'm living now. I didn't know it was a thing. So it's really learning to trust in that wisdom that's gonna, I think that's the trusting through doing, right? You have to experience it to start gaining that trust in that it's gonna create far greater than you can imagine. And I think that's
Yeah.
hard sometimes.
Really gathering that courage to change. And like I say, you can be curious, treat it as an experiment. What would that
Yeah.
kind of reality be like? What if
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
wealthy? What would that look like? What does
Yeah.
that mean? Like to connect into it and to be able to tune into it. I remember Wayne Dyer used to talk about that, right? That abundance isn't something we acquire, it's something we tune into. How is
Mm.
abundance different from wealth? How do you see that? Or is it?
A really good question, actually. For me, abundance is very expansive. I feel I'm very energetic, so I sort of
Mhm.
navigate the world through the language of energy. So for me, abundance is very expansive. It's very like heart center up and around.
Mhm.
Um, and it's non-specific. So abundance can be all sorts of things. You can have abundance of love, abundance of, I don't know, food. Like it's just like there's plenty. Wealth to me, it's similar, but it feels a bit more like through the body. It feels a bit more grounded to me, and a bit more about bringing things into the earth. That's how I experience it. It's like
Yeah.
slightly different energies. And then wealth, obviously, it's the same thing. You can have a wealth of all sorts of things. Obviously, we're talking about financial wealth. You can have financial abundance as well. That's how I sort of see it through the energy
Mhm.
systems. I see the abundance from the heart
Mhm.
chakra up, and the wealth from the kind of heart chakra down.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I love that perspective. Thanks so much
No
for
one's asked me
sharing
that
that.
question before. I haven't thought about that, but that is actually how I experience it. Yeah, as above, so below.
Yes, absolutely. And what if people want to connect with you so that they can align above and below?
Yeah, well, I've got
Yeah.
lots of places to connect. You can check out my podcast, Money Manifestation Mastery, and I've got all my step-by-steps there. So that's a really great resource.
Oh,
You can come to
awesome.
my website, larawaldman.com, and there I've got some free events, retreats, masterclasses. You can book in for a call with me there. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, under Lara Waldman, so you can find me there as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have all of those links down below and a little bit more about Laura as well in the show notes. And of course, my information to you for Lighting the Path. We're both co-authors too of the book, The Ultimate Guide to Leaving Your Legacy. There's
Mm.
22 powerful lessons on leading as a soul professional in there. And Laura, what is your chapter about in that one?
That chapter is called Live Your Legacy. And it's sharing a sort of very, personal story of overcoming a lot of judgment and criticism from family and following that heart and soul that was taking me into a bigger mission beyond my family, and how stressful and hard that was. But then I share my step-by-step process of how I navigate that, find that courage to follow your heart and soul, and unhook from attachments, that
Yeah.
longing for belonging. That was a huge inner fight, inner
Mm-hmm.
conflict with me for a long time. It was very stressful. And really talking about how important it is, because as much as I love my family, my like keeping myself stuck and small was stopping me from doing what I was here to do, which was much bigger and greater than just keeping the old patterns alive, which actually are patterns based in trauma and violence and addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is talking about that, how to do that, because it's hard. Like there's a lot of things you have to overcome or let go of in order to really step into your purpose, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's beautiful, it's totally worth it, but it can be confronting when you're navigating from your old life into what you're being called into. So that's what my chapter is about.
Oh, I love that too. And similarly, in my chapter, I talk about becoming a living legacy, right? And really leading with passion. And the way I see passion, when you break up the word, it's pass I on. That I is your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. So the chapter's about my story and how I came into that, from complete depletion and not being myself at all into waking up, literally jolting up with this surge of energy, remembering what that I was, that I was here to pass on in this lifetime. And then evolving into lighting the path, a profound impact and collective transformation, because it's not so much about our individual missions anymore or about us, right? It's about collectively our contribution, our connection, and our collaboration, like really joining together and being unified in purpose and vision. And so I offer some practical insights and steps into sustaining our energy and passion and how we can have that profound impact or make the difference that we came here to make, and gather the courage to do that,
Yeah.
Yeah. And overcome, there's so many things that could have held me back, like you said, right? And similarly, all those voices too. And what felt threatening wasn't as strong as the drive to
Mm.
really fulfill the mission that we came here to do. So very inspiring book. Those are just a couple of the chapters of the 22 that are in there. So I'll make sure the links down in the show notes for y'all there too. Thank you all so much for joining in with us today on Awaken and Ascend. And Laura, any final words for us?
Well, it's been so lovely to connect with you all. And I just want to say to your heart that what that heart consciousness, soul's wisdom, that body's wisdom is wanting to grow and evolve into is so beautiful. And
Mhm.
it will lead you gently and consistently if you listen to it. So I would recommend listening and following.
Yeah. Answer the call. See you all again next time. Bye for now.